Berlin is breathing its last breath, not a glorious breath, not a final cry of defiance. It is the wet, rattling intake of a body that has been buried alive and is finally giving up the fight. The air tastes of ash and brick dust, of wet metal and burned paper. Somewhere above, a wall collapses with a dull, defeated thud. The ground trembles, then settles again, like a tired animal curling in on itself. Far below the ruined streets, inside the concrete throat of the bunker, light barely exists. Bare bulbs flicker, their weak glow unable to fully touch the corners where shadows cling like mold. Water drips slowly from a pipe along the ceiling. Once, twice, again. Each drop is a second stolen from a dying empire. At the long-chipped wooden table sits Adolf Hitler. He is not the figure from banners and speeches anymore. That man belonged to another world. This version is smaller, hunched, as if the ceiling itself is pressing down on his spine. His uniform hangs loose on his thinning frame. The fabric smells faintly of sweat, stale tobacco, and old fear. His hands, pale, trembling, rest on a stack of unopened reports. No one speaks. No one dares. A general steps forward at last, boots scraping softly against the concrete floor. He places a large folder on the table. Inside are photographs, crisp and unreal in a world that has become nothing but rubble and dust. Mein Führer, he begins, voice tight. This is new American aircraft intelligence. Hitler does not answer. His eyes lower to the first image. A vast shape fills the sky, smooth metal gleaming like a blade held up to the sun. 4 massive engines, wide wings stretching into endless blue. It is not grotesque. It is not clumsy. It is beautiful in a cold, inhuman way. The B-29 Superfortress. For a long moment, the entire bunker seems to hold its breath. Hitler's fingers curl slowly around the edges of the photograph. The paper bends under his grip. What is this? He murmurs, almost to himself. High-altitude bomber, sir, the general replies. Range far beyond anything in Europe. They can reach where we cannot touch them. They fly above our guns, above our fighters, above our will. The word Superfortress echoes in the room, hollow and heavy. Hitler stares at the machine, in the sky, at this proof that a world exists beyond his control, beyond his vision, beyond his madness. Something flickers in his eyes. Not fury, not pride, only a quiet, creeping understanding. This, he whispers, his voice barely cutting through the dripping silence, is the future, and it does not belong to us. The light flickers again, and somewhere above, Berlin continues to fall. The photograph does not leave his mind. Long after the general has gone, long after the shuffle of nervous boots has faded down the corridor, the image remains, burned into the back of his eyes like an after-image of the sun. When he closes them, he still sees it, the silver body, the immense wings, the perfect balance between grace and annihilation. He pushes himself up from the table and moves slowly toward the narrow corridor that leads to his private chamber. Each step feels strangely heavy, as if he is walking not on concrete but through wet soil. The bunker trembles again. Dust flutters from the ceiling, settling on his shoulders like a thin gray snowfall. Once crowd shook the ground when he entered a room. Now the earth shakes to remind him he no longer controls anything. In his chamber, the air is stale, old, untouched by fresh wind for months. The small bed stands against the wall, its blanket thin and wrinkled. On the desk, a single lamp casts a low, yellow circle of light. Within that circle lies the photograph. He stares at it as though it has crept there on its own. The B-29 does not look like a weapon. It looks deliberate, thoughtful, designed by minds that planned not only for war, but for a future beyond it. America does not scream its power. It builds it. The thought stings more than any insult ever could. Slowly he sits. His joints ache. His fingers, still trembling, reach for a pen. The leather-bound diary before him has grown thick over the years with conviction, hatred, prophecy. Tonight, its pages feel heavier, honest. He writes, April 1945. There is an aircraft in the hands of my enemy that defies everything we thought possible. It does not belong to the present war. It belongs to a coming world, and that world is arriving faster than I can destroy it. He pauses. The pen hovers above the page. Above him, another explosion. Closer now. The lamp sways slightly. Shadows stretch and contract as though breathing. He imagines the superfortress over Berlin, its shadow rolling across the rooftops, silent, enormous, indifferent. He imagines children looking up at it, not in terror, but in wonder, as one might look at something divine and terrible at the same time. A machine that cannot be prayed to, a machine that does not listen. He writes again, "We built our power on fear. They built theirs on knowledge. That may be the difference that ends everything." His hand stops. For the first time in years, he does not know what to write next. Outside, the war continues its slow, final approach. And inside the bunker, surrounded by concrete and crumbling certainty, one man realizes that the journey he forced upon the world has brought him to a place from which there is no return. The next image arrives before sunrise. A courier places it on the table outside his chamber and walks away without a word. No salute, no announcements. Even protocol is tired now. He finds it waiting when he steps out, as if the night itself has delivered it. It is another photograph of the B-29, closer this time. Closer than he wants it to be. The aircraft fills the frame almost entirely. The polished skin reflects the clouds, turning the sky into something cold and metallic. The cockpit windows stare forward like dark, unblinking eyes. Under the wings, the engines sit silent and obedient in the still image. But he can almost hear them, a low, endless hum. Steady, confident, alive. This is not a rumor. This is not propaganda. This is real. He carries the photograph inside, his fingertips numb against the paper. The edges are sharp. The image is sharper. Every line, every rivet, every curve speaks of careful design and limitless resources. He lowers himself into the chair. For a long time, he does not move. Outside the bunker, Berlin is tearing itself apart. Men shouting, women crying, walls falling, history collapsing into rubble. But here, in the small circle of light over his desk, there is only silence. And the Superfortress. They fly it from islands, one report says. Thousands of miles across the ocean. They return, refuel, rise again, endless, endless. The word wraps around his chest like a tightening wire. His mouth feels dry. He wets his lips, but there is no comfort in the small movement. His eyes trace the lines of the machine again and again. The long, stretched wings, the bulbous nose, the quiet confidence of its shape. "This is not an airplane," he whispers, voice cracked and distant. "This is an empire built in the sky." He almost laughs. A thin, broken sound that dies quickly in the stale air. All our speeches, our parades, our flags. His gaze remains fixed on the image, and they answer with metal and mathematics. For the first time, the thought comes clearly, without parade or performance. We have been surpassed, not defeated by armies alone, but by minds, by time, by a future he never truly understood. His fingers slacken. The photograph slides slightly on the desk. A very human, very small sound escapes him then. Not rage, not command, not madness. It is closer to sorrow. "I built my world from anger," he murmurs. "They built theirs from knowledge." Another tremor rolls through the bunker. Dust drifts down like ash from a dead dream. He does not look up. He cannot look away. And in that quiet moment, beneath the earth of a dying city, Adolf Hitler stares at the sky and feels, at last, the full weight of what it means to be left behind. Hunger lives in the bunker now. It is not loud or dramatic. It does not roar like propaganda once did. It sits quietly in the stomach and whispers. It makes the guards irritable, the officers distracted, the air heavier than the concrete walls themselves. Soup is served thin and gray, more water than nourishment. A crust of bread is divided into careful portions, as though even crumbs have become a form of currency. Hitler stands in the doorway of the small mess room without announcing himself. He watches. A young soldier holds his bowl with both hands, as if the warmth is something sacred. He eats slowly, eyes lowered, savoring each weak spoonful the way one might savor a memory. No one looks powerful anymore. They only look tired. And then the reports come. American air crews with full meals. Eggs powdered and real at the same time. Fresh meat sealed in tins. Coffee so strong it stains the cups. Chocolate bars passed from hand to hand before takeoff. Bitten into with careless abundance. He imagines it. A young American pilot leaning against the smooth skin of the Superfortress, laughing at some small joke, the sun warming his face. He imagines the taste of sweetness that German mouths have long forgotten. He imagines hands that do not shake when they lift a cup. It is not simply food. It is an entire untouched world. Another file is placed before him. Inside, testimonies from prisoners, fragments gathered like forbidden evidence. "They gave us clean water." They spoke. Politely. "They allowed us to wash." "They treated us as men." A strange discomfort coils in his chest. Not anger. Something worse. Confusion. Kindness from the enemy is far more unsettling than cruelty. Cruelty fits the story he told his people. Kindness tears it open and forces light inside, and that light burns. He turns his head slightly and looks again at the photograph of the B-29, still resting on his desk. That machine is not fueled by hatred. It is fueled by industry, by order, by knowledge passed from hand to hand, mind to mind. It is a cathedral of mathematics and steel. A quiet realization forms, slow and undeniable. This is what true power looks like. Not shouting, not salutes, not fear. Creation. He closes his eyes briefly. All this time, he whispers to the stale air, I taught my people to destroy. His eyes open again. They taught theirs to build. The bunker trembles once more. A nearby explosion shakes a fine drift of dust from the ceiling. It settles on the photograph, softening its sharp edges. He does not brush it away. Outside, Germany starves. Inside his mind, the image of full American tables, calm faces, and a silver wing cutting clean through an untouched sky grows brighter and more unbearable. The night brings letters, not addressed to him, never to him anymore, but intercepted, collected, filtered through careful hands that think he still needs to see them. Pages torn from ordinary lives, written in hurried pencil, in shaking ink, words smudged by cold fingers and quiet desperation. He reads them alone. The bombing has taken the bakery. There is no bread today. We boil potato peelings for soup. The children ask when the war will end. I do not know what to tell them. Each line is a small, sharp cut. These are not soldiers. These are wives, mothers, old men who were once boys in the last war. Innocent lives shrinking inside ruins he promised would be a 1,000-year kingdom. He looks down at his own hands again, pale, spotted, trembling. They no longer resemble the hands that once sliced through the air before roaring crowds. These hands look like they belong to an old, forgotten man who has spent years gripping nothing but lies. Again his gaze travels to the photograph, the American B-29. He imagines it now not as an enemy, but as a messenger from another universe, a world in which cities are lit, food is plentiful, and men return home without fear of a knock in the night. He feels something dangerous stir inside him. Not admiration, not envy, something closer to grief. What have I made of them? He asks the empty room, though he already knows the answer. They trusted me with their lives, and I traded them for ashes. Silence answers him. Not even the cracks in the ceiling dare respond. His mind fractures into unexpected places. Faces he once ignored drift up now. A child waving a tiny flag. A young soldier stepping onto a train platform. A woman shouting his name with tears in her eyes. All those voices once formed a chorus. Now they whisper accusations. The psychological weight of it is inescapable. To be treated harshly would have allowed him to keep his narrative. To be met with brutality would have justified his fury. But the calm, organized, powerful reality represented by that machine in the sky, and the human accounts beneath it, erodes the foundation of his identity. It is not bombs that defeat him. It is contradiction. Maybe strength was never in domination. He murmurs, barely audible. Perhaps it was in creation all along. The thought scares him more than the approaching armies. Because it is true. And truth at last has found its way into the bunker. He closes his eyes. Above him, unseen, the world keeps turning toward tomorrow. And inside, the man who tried to stop it realizes he has already lost.